Hey everyone, I wanted to go over the 911 call again. And then while I was looking to see if there were any new documents, I found some. So I wanted to. Oh my gosh, that was echoing. Okay. So where did my page go? Here we go. So I started to read this one, the defendant's motion for leave to file responses to the state's amended experts disclosures. That says it came out the 6th, but I didn't see this one. So this is defendant's motion for leave to file responses to the state's amended expert disclosures. It says here, comes now Brian C. Koberger by and through his attorney of record and hereby moves the court for leave from the court's sealed order governing further criminal proceedings and notice of trial setting filed October 9th, 2024. Defense counsel is asking for leave to file responses to the state's amended supplemental response to requests for discovery regarding expert testimony filed with the court March 3rd, 2025. Mr. Koberger requests leave to provide responses to the state's amended disclosures to the extent the disclosures present new or changed expert opinion that his experts will address at trial. Mr. Koberger requests leave to amend or file additional motions in limine relating to these disclosures. Mr. Koberger grounds these requests in his United States and Idaho constitutional rights of confrontation, a fair trial, effective assistance of counsel, and presenting a full defense. These disclosures were made 2 months after the state's expert disclosure deadline and over a month after the state had the benefit of Mr. Koberger's expert disclosures. Further, the disclosures did not come until 2 weeks after the state's rebuttal expert disclosure. Mr. Koberger notes that the March 3rd, 2025 disclosure, one of the new disclosures is an expert report that makes changes to the original report. That report was dated February 13th, 2025, in time for the state's rebuttal disclosure. For unexplained reasons, the expert report was held an additional 2 weeks before disclosure. Should the court require a hearing on this matter, counsel requests 30 minutes to present an oral argument, evidence, or testimony. Now, I do remember Hippler saying, to this specific issue, since I guess the state hadn't disclosed their experts, that as long as they could keep asking for leave or extensions, depending on when the state discloses their experts. I think he said it was the nature of the beast or something, if I'm remembering correctly. So this one is interesting. So I think it has related to that because they're asking for additional things for the same issue. Jackie, welcome. Good to see you. All right, so I just read this one. Defendant's motion for leave to file responses to the state's amended expert disclosures. Well, this one's brand new today. I don't know if these actually give any any information because it looks like it's just to order sealing Exhibit A to defendant's 7th motion to compel, the court having before it the motion to seal Exhibit A to the defendant's 7th motion to compel, and good cause appearing now. Therefore, it is hereby ordered Exhibit A to the defense 7th motion to compel shall be filed under seal. There really wasn't much to that one. Oops. All right, I got to get that screen back. All right, so we read this very top one, which is brand new. I read this one, and I was thinking that this is in relation to something that Hitler said that they would be able to file, even though I don't really like that. The state did have like a couple of weeks to know what Brian's witnesses would be. I feel like that does give them an advantage. This is the defendant's 7th motion to compel discovery. So comes now Brian C. Koberger, buying through his attorney of record and pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16F, hereby moves the court to order the state to comply with defendant's 22nd supplemental request for discovery filed 1/28/25. Each of the requested items that are still outstanding are outlined in the attached 7th motion to compel Exhibit A, filed under seal with the court. Counsel requests that this motion be set for hearing in order to present oral argument, evidence, and/or testimony in support thereof. Requested time is 1 hour. All right, so we've had a few of these motion to compel hearings. We've had the one for the DNA, the motion to compel hearing in May 2023, where that was Stephen Hippler, Leah Larkin, Bika Barlow, Gabriela Vargas. We've had the motion to compel the 4th and 5th with Mallory, Payne, and Syray. And so now I guess they're asking for another motion to compel hearing. So hopefully we'll get to learn more about what is in the 7th motion to compel. And it looks like there was a supplemental, a 20-second supplemental request for discovery. So I don't know if we know what the 7th motion was. Well, that'll be really exciting. Does anybody remember? 7th motion. Oh, it's not even on here. Compel. Oh, there's an order sealing Exhibit B. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, I don't remember what the 7th one was, but hopefully we find out soon. That'll be really exciting if we get another hearing for whatever is in regard to the 7th motion to compel and the defendant's 22nd motion to compel was the supplemental. Did I look at this one yet? I just looked at this one, right? Yeah, we just looked at this one. Okay. This is to modify the, hi, Heather Fitzgerald. Yes, so Heather says June 23rd was the first and second motions to compel. August 18 was the third motion to compel. The fourth and fifth motions to compel were on the 23rd and 30th of May, 2024. Thank you so much for that, Heather. So Heather, it looks like Ann Taylor has requested another motion to compel hearing for whatever is in the motion to compel, the seventh motion to compel. Do you have any information on the seventh one, or is that one just like, because I know that we had maybe an idea, because I know that third motion to compel was very powerful, and I feel like we had, we were able to read that because that was the list where she wanted the lab personnel information. She wanted the 6 months before and 6 months after 11/13/2022. But then at some point they stopped making those public. So I'm not sure, I can't find it on the site, but I'm really excited about that for whatever that is. And now I have pulled up here another one of the new documents. You guys have probably read over these already, but these are, I haven't. Oh, because this one's from the state. This one is the motion to modify no contact order. The state of Idaho by and through Latah County prosecuting attorney moves this court for a modification to the no contact order previously filed herein, prohibiting the defendant from having any contact with the father of one of the victims. This motion is based on the fact that the father has requested the addition of his wife and stepdaughter to the no contact order. The state has contacted the defendant's attorney, Ann Taylor, in this matter, and she does not have an objection to the amending to the no contact order to include his wife and stepdaughter. Is that Maddie? I think that's Maddie's father, Maddie's stepmom, and it must be Maddie's stepsister. Because I remember seeing in it was that one. Heather Fitzgerald says, these responses to the third motion to compel supplemental filings and protective order IGG, a lot is in mid-2023 filings. Thank you for that. So it looks like Maddie's father, Maddie's stepmother, and stepsister want to be added to the no contact order. And I say that because it was that motion in limine for the defendant, for the families. Immediate family members in the courtroom. Yeah, let me show you this. You guys have probably already figured this out, but I'm just figuring it out now. Where wasn't there a list? Oh my gosh. Here it is. Okay. So when you come down here, it looks like the stepmother of Maddie's stepsister, and here's Maddie's father. Because I remember this because I didn't remember seeing stepsister or stepmother under any other ones. Make update with Jackie. Oh, we have 2 Jackies in here today. Make update with Jackie says, I'm so happy I found your channel today. Thank you so much. I did see your comment. Oh my God, did that make me feel so good that you said that? I do. I find it really amazing that we're all able to learn a lot of things from experts from our own home and share all the things that we learn. I think it's incredible. Thank you so much, Jackie, for stopping by and commenting and subscribing. We are very happy to have you here. So yes, so I think that one, so I guess it's Maddie's stepfather wants to add the stepmother and stepsister to the protective order because I don't see, yeah, no one else has step on it. So here we go. Motion to modify contact order. So, I mean, I think that's just, more information. I don't know if it means anything, but I don't know. I think it's kind of cool that we figured out who one of the father's victims, like who this relates to. Even though they didn't put any names in it, we still figured it out, right? All right, let's go to the next one. And I do want to get back, I do want to talk a little bit about the 911 call and the text, but I just noticed on here that there were some new ones that I hadn't seen yet, so I don't know if you guys have seen it. Hello, Meg P, welcome. Heather Fitzgerald says, it's so obvious that the state is trying to distract. Yeah, especially, Heather, after the release of that 911 call, to me, it sounds badly rehearsed. And I will get into why I think that. And I don't think I'm the only one that thinks that. But no wonder they wanted it sealed this whole time because it's very suspicious. And it's almost criminal that the police didn't go further in that direction. But yes, I completely agree. And you know what, Heather? I've noticed that even though the state, in my opinion, doesn't really do things to show that it has the families in mind, it's their go-to. They always try to appeal to emotion. And I think they're trying to do that again with this motion here about, adding family members to the protection order. But yeah, I agree. Oh, Heather Fitzgerald says it's to distract people from the facts that Anne is dropping. 100%. I agree. Ample Spark, welcome. Hello. Jackie Bushable says the cookies are starting to crumble. Yes. All right. I think we got to them all, right? Or did I miss this one? No, I think we did. Because this comes now, Brian C. Kober, by through his attorney of record, and hereby moves the court for an order to seal Exhibit A from the defendant's seventh motion to compel. This motion is made pursuant to ICAR and IC, B and C, because they are either previously already sealed or are redacted. For these purposes of this motion, the court will need to see the full document, and therefore non-redacted copies are being filed under seal. Oh, well, that's interesting that Ann Taylor is signaling there that the judge has to look at all of those. Okay. So that was cool. That was just a little update before I wanted to talk a little bit about this 911 call. I did read it yesterday. So if you needed to hear that, you can. And we discussed a little bit there. Now, when I was reading the beginning part of this, Truth and Justice with Anna D. Welcome. A makeup date. That's a very cute name. Okay. Because I think the state sold this too hard, because they were talking about down here, they were like, yeah, well, Judge said, because of this, there wasn't any time to fabricate, but I think the 911 call is entirely fabricated. And it doesn't really take a lot of deduction or, deduction skills. I think it's kind of apparent. So I don't know if anybody doesn't think so. I don't know. I think that they should question a little more. Let's see. Where did it say that? It was fabricate. Oh, it says it twice. Some declarations made would also be considered excited utterances. Those statements include, oh, and they saw some man in their house last night. Yeah. As well as having heavy breathing and crying that could be heard throughout the call. The declarants were responding to a startling occasion, discovery of unresponsive roommate. The statement regarding a person being in the home is in direct response to why Kernodle might be passed out. All statements are made while the declarants are processing what is happening and were made before an opportunity to reflect and fabricate why Kernodle is unconscious. Clearly statements of BFDM, EA, and HJ, and the dispatcher. So they're saying that all of this was stated before an opportunity to reflect and fabricate as to why Kernodle is unconscious. I disagree with that, and I don't know why they had to I think they had to put that in there, right? Because that's exactly what it sounds like. Okay, so then here we are. Oh, right, because there were two things they wanted to explain. So the one about fabricate, it says the requirements for a hearsay statement to constitute an excited utterance are 1, a startling occasion, 2, a statement relating to the circumstances of the startling occasion, 3, a declarant who appears to have had the opportunity to observe personally the events, and 4, a statement made before there has been time to reflect and fabricate. I think that's the entire 911 call. What do you guys think? And there is one statement in here that really stands out to me. CH, welcome. Good to have you. Heather Fitzgerald says, they are literally gaslighting to the fullest. These are the people that will accuse you of doing what they themselves are actually doing to you publicly, right? Heather Fitzgerald says, and denying that they are doing it while pointing at you. The people that will steal your wallet and then help you look for it. Oh, that is a very good analogy for what is actually happening here. David Bird, welcome. David Bird says they took 8 hours to become excited and make an utterance. Oh, yeah. Oh, Too Fast for Flea's Best Name says, I felt that gaslighting comment, right? So, I'm going to show you the statement that actually took this to the next level for me, because this is clearly fabricated and it's rehearsed, but I think there's another element to it. I mean, I could be wrong. It's this one here. Where is it? A1? Did we figure out, was that Emily or one of the roommates? This person states, I guess she grabs the phone and says, I'll talk to you guys. We live at the right, so we're next to them. To me, this statement makes me feel like they're not in the location they say they are. Because why wouldn't you say, oh yeah, well, I live next door. So which makes me think they are next door. Otherwise, why wouldn't you just say, yes, we're here in the house. Because I think Chief Fry said that the call came from the house, but I don't think it actually did, even though he said that in one of the, I don't know, was it a press conference? I think they're allowed to lie there for the sake of the investigation. But I think if they were next door and they didn't want to alert anyone that they are next door, then they would say, yeah, where are we again in relation to where we should be? Oh, we're at the right. We're next to them. Does that make any sense? So, and I really would love to hear this, because then we'll be able to know more. But then also, if they were in that house, their bodies would be reacting to that environment, because there are 4 other bodies in there, and as we all know, the smell, that smell affects us as humans. So if we're around that, our bodies do things to know something bad is going on. We are just wired that way. I guess it's instinctual. So they should have been, when you smell that, when people smell that for the first time, especially like if you're in a medical setting and you're like a doctor and you're like learning how to be a doctor, you never forget your first few times when you're around the dying or someone who has already passed. And some of them have to leave the room and they do throw up, because it is such an experience. And if these people are not physically reacting to their surroundings and they're not right on top of Kernodle, to me, it almost sounds like they're in a different location. But I could be wrong about that completely, though. Too Fast for Fleas says, I really want to know why Dylan was texting EG at 2:10 a.m. if everyone was already home. Or was she still out and needed a ride? Do you think they are preparing her for the insanity plea? I know. It's her recollection is all over the place. Okay, CH said they were outside. Okay. Jackie Bushable says, I've been a few places, but I had not heard this. Heather Fitzgerald says, Hunter and Emily lived across the street at the apartments that the Banfield body cam starts. Okay. Meg P says, I have never forgotten the smell. Heather Fitzgerald said he's probably the DoorDash driver. Jackie Bishop says, ew, Meg P, I worked at a hospital for 25 years. Yeah. Okay, so CH says that they were probably all outside when they were making that phone call. That makes sense. So they weren't in the house, but still, I think because of the circumstances that we are told, that they must not have been in the house a very long time. Even though they said they went downstairs and gone to sleep, how do we know they just didn't leave? Didn't we see a bunch of people leave in the Linda Lane photo? This is complete speculation. This is not anything else but that. There's no scientific data here. This is just going off of what we're reading in front of us. CH says, possible they were slowly acclimatized to the smell as they slept. CJ, Eville CJ, welcome. Good to see you. Heather Fitzgerald says, early on, Kane F. said that his footage shows a white or light sedan at the time of KGMM being dropped off that goes toward the house and then back past a few minutes later. Oh, welcome, Kane. Heather Fitzgerald says, seems clear that the private driver is in a white light sedan. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Ample Spark says, I wonder if DM was messaging EG to see if he dropped off the girls, maybe heard something strange. I wished they'd release that the text exchange was. Okay, Heather, Eville CJ says, EG, I'm guessing Eric Grower owns a white car, owns a truck seen in the security cam video of the girls walking to the grub truck, and also owns a Prius. Okay. Well, even if they are right outside, they're definitely, they're not with Xana at this time. And this is really badly rehearsed. And the way that there's somebody in here that's like, well, let me just tell you what happened. So at 4 a.m., so they're already trying to put in a timeline. They're already trying to establish what I think is alibi. Because this is not, because at this time, this is not the most pressing information to get over. At this time, you're doing the life-saving, immediate, which would be to address Xana, who was found on the floor. Not, oh, let me tell you what happened. Let me tell you what happened before I tell you about whatever the victims are going through or wherever they are right now. You know, like that's how I feel like it is. Momo's thinking, welcome. CH says they were downstairs, which is physically separated from the upper floors with an open door. I'm not married to that idea, just challenging my own thoughts. Yeah, they could have been, but I feel like somebody was at the top of the stairs because the lab techs kept stepping over something right at the top of the stairs. And if there was somebody at the top of the stairs, and Ann Taylor said, like, from the second floor to the first floor, that's kind of how, where the blood on the handrail could have been. Eville CJ says, BF was trying to tell the truth. DM was trying to distance them from living there. I think they were told not to say anything at this DM. I agree. Heather Fitzgerald says, exactly. If this is the full transcript, what the fuck does the I mean, WTF, does the dispatch need to hear about someone at the house at 4 a.m. for? Right, Heather. Kane says, there is a reason morticians use smelling salts, which are gnarly. The smell proliferates and is not admissible. Right? CH says, I think HJ is the only person who went upstairs at the time of the call. They were told to call. They don't know what happened. Who doesn't know what happened? It sounds like they know exactly what happened, even the night before and during the 911 call. Momo's thinking says they're blind and can't breathe either. CH, right? Told to call. Okay, so somebody was told to call. Okay, so here are the text messages. And this is another one where I think they're very aware. Okay, so I know we've all seen this a lot, but from 4:22 to 4:24 a.m., DM and BF sent the following text messages. DMs sent BF. No one is answering. DM to BF. I'm really confused right now. DM to Gonsalves. Kaylee? DM to Gonsalves. What's going on? BF to DM. Yeah, dude. WTF. BF to DM. Santa was wearing all black. DM to BF. I'm freaking out right now. DM to BF. No, it's like a ski mask almost. BF to DM. STFU. BF to DM. Actually, DM to BF. Like he had something over his forehead and little and mouth. DM to BF. BF. I'm not kidding. Oh, I'm so freaked out. BM to DM. So am I. DM to BF. My phone is going to die. Fuck. BF to DM. Come to my room. BF to DM. Run. BF to DM. Down here. This, I don't know. There's an awareness from DM to know enough to check on Kaylee, to see Kaylee, what's happening. So DM is alerted to something, so she already knows about something's going on with Kaylee. And BF seems to sort of know what's going on because then she's throwing in, well, here's information that I know. And also down here where DM to BF says, like, he has something over his head. There is a lot of typos in here. So this could easily be she. Like she had something over her head and little around mouth. So they were very well aware and they knew something was happening at that time. Okay. Then it says, all of the declarants are present sense impressions and excited utterances. This is supported by DM's grand jury testimony where she indicates she just witnessed a startling event. Heard noises in the residence, saw an unknown male in the residence. Declarants indicate both BF and DM are trying to make sense of the startling event contemporaneously or immediately following the startling event. No more reflection or fabrication. I don't know. They're already trying to lay the groundwork for something. At 4:24 a.m., DM calls Ethan Chapin. Call unanswered. This phone record, like other records of calls, is not a statement pursuant to IRE 801. DM and BF continue to text at 4:24. DM texts BF, I'm screwed though. And BF responds at 4:25, yeah, I know, but it's better than being alone. Again, both statements are admissible as present sense impressions and excited utterances as they are describing an event of their state of mind and are spontaneous reactions to that event rather than the result of reflective thought. At 4:27 a.m., DM calls Gonsalves unanswered. At 4:28, DM calls Cornodal unanswered. These are not statements pursuant to IRE 801. At 4:32, DM sends a text messages to Gonsalves stating, please answer. This statement is present sense impression, shows DM's perception of events and excited utterance, spontaneous reaction to the event rather than the result reflective thought. The next morning, DM sends the following messages starting at 10:23. DM to Gonsalves, please answer. DM to Mogan, are you up? DM to Gonsalves, are you up? These text messages are not hearsay because they will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted. Even if deemed hearsay, They are allowable as present sense impressions as they reflect a consistency of continuation of DM's text messages from the night prior and reflect her perception of what was then occurring. For example, waking up and realizing that she had not heard from her roommates. At 11:39, DM has a text exchange with her father, BM. These statements are not hearsay, as they will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted, instead to show a timeline for the morning. At 11:50, DM receives all text messages from Jay stating, "Bro, this text message will not be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted." At 11:50, DM calls EA. This phone record is not a statement pursuant. DM receives the text from Jay at 11:51 and a vandal alert at 1:04. These texts are not hearsay because they will not be introduced for the truth of the matter. DM and BF testimony. So they anticipate the testimony. Okay. So DM's phone records contained in S1 for November 13, 2022, and BF's testimony contained in Exhibit S2 are allowable under Crawford. Let me come back and see what you guys are saying. Design Rhythm, welcome. Fat Sheet Crazy, welcome. Design Rhythm says that first morning text is 90 minutes before call 911. What were they doing all that time? Yeah. Design Rhythm also says, so somehow they were freaking out, but also just go to bed. CH says, think of weird shit you wake up when you are trashed, and in the morning you laugh yourself. That's what that reminds me of. Heather says, no need to explain what and why its purpose is to be. Twiz, welcome Twiz. Heather says, there is no reason for this filing to disclose any info other than to lay a groundwork for some bullshit. Yeah. Heather Fitzgerald says they could just produce the effing CDRs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the propaganda. Wait, Heather. Oh, Heather must be joking. Yeah, okay. FF has been subpoenaed. Deleted all of her videos except Great Discovery. Is that true? Her videos are still gone? Yeah. Okay, so Meg P says, lots of people, nurse, doctors, etc., put Vicks Vapo and peppermint chapstick under their nose for smiles. Heather Fitzgerald says, let me be very clear on this, having substances exit the body in a way that applies to 1122 Vicks. It's not the same scent as decon. Okay. Okay, I think I caught up on all your... Oh, there's a few more here. Heather Fitzgerald says, Danger Zone, welcome. So good to see you. Obviously, not having time to think of what they should be saying on the 911 call. Ah, Twiz said, someone said a couple of other creators' vids are all gone too. Yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah. Yvonne Poole, welcome. Good to see you. Oh, Yvonne Poole says, I think this is only to establish their BS timeline. I agree. What if all of these texts and the call are just to establish their time, the roommate's timeline themselves? And then the state is also doing it. But like in other cases, have texts and calls been used to establish a timeline, or have they been used to actually say someone's trying too hard to establish a timeline for themselves and their alibis? Kane says, decomp within 24 to 48 hours, dirty pennies to overwhelming. Yeah. Kane says JJ Vance has also had some removed. Wow. That is okay. So we did finish this, and the last few pages are sealed exhibits. So yeah, I am just, all of these texts give me a really bad feeling. Like, just pretend it's not this case where there's all this drama and emotion to make sure that Brian is guilty and all these roommates are innocent. If it was any other case, these would be incriminating text messages, and the 911 call would be scrutinized because it's very suspicious, in my opinion. David Bird says, state thought too much focus on digging into Larkin interview. Heather Fitzgerald, the only video on FF channel last I looked was one single video, the Garrett Discovery video. That is her, not YouTube police. Exactly, it's a distraction. Yeah. So, there might be some exciting news coming up because I haven't shortly I don't know, like you know how when you get a certain amount of view hours, you can start to have some merchandise. I've been planning some things, which I think are going to be really fun. Maybe I'll put out some polls to see what you guys like. I was thinking something like a glam DNA kit. Yeah, I'll talk more about that. Maybe I'll have a special episode once that all comes. That should be coming soon. I think it's really exciting. And, you know, I always love coffee mugs with lots of sparkles and glitter on it. It doesn't really matter what else it says. So I think that would be really fun. Yeah, what do you think of a glam DNA kit, Danger Zone, that has some like coffee cups with like sparkles on it, maybe some diamonds, you know, because I do think that DNA it's minerals, and minerals can be, makes me think of diamonds and dust and sparkles and shimmers and stars. So I really think that DNA can be fun. It doesn't have to necessarily be this strict science thing, because I love DNA. I just think it's really fun to look at. Heather Fitzgerald says, does this kit tell you how pretty you are based on your DNA profile? Well, everybody's DNA is absolutely beautiful, and everybody should let their DNA shine. Your stardust DNA. Danger Zone says, Audrey, you have cornered the market on making DNA fun. Yeah, I think so. I have so many exciting things to show you guys when it comes to making DNA fun. Because, like, I know when people think of DNA, they think of, like, these helix structures or, like, pictures in, like, science books. No, I want the helix to be, like, glittery and made of, like, diamonds and gems. You know, and diamonds are just so much fun. And I don't know if you guys have seen, but I made some songs with AI, and their songs all about DNA, and they have the healing frequencies, the Siligio frequency, where these different hertz affect our bodies and our vibrations in different ways, and they're just excellent. So if you ever need to, like, just recalibrate, there are ways and vibrations and sound that really do affect our health and our body. Have you guys ever seen that the salt, when salt is vibrating, it makes these different, like, snowflake effects, and it's vibrating at different frequencies, make different patterns? That's very similar what happens inside to your DNA when we are exposed to different frequencies. And so when I think about that, I just think of, like, this bouncing glitter. And, like, our bouncing glitter on, like, a metaphysical, like, level is, like, responding to these sound waves. Here we go. Danger Zone knows exactly what I'm talking about. Mapatics, how do you say it? But yeah, I think that's right. Oh, Twiz won. You get surprised. He said the brown note is real. Yeah. Danger Zone, right. Exactly. The 528, the 432. Yeah. Oh, look at Kane B. The DNA makeup kit. I love it. Yeah, so I was thinking that we would have some, like, fun, sparkly things. And then either I can put together some kits, or you can, like, do your own DNA kit, where, I don't know if you want, like, a t-shirt. I would love to have a t-shirt with a diamond on it that says your DNA glitters or something. And I did make some designs already. Wow, that's so cool, Danger Zone. You already know. Oh, here's Heather says, it should be a law that any IDAHO4 content, anyone has healing frequencies in the background. Right? All right, let me show you. I don't know if you guys have heard the songs I made. I got to show you. And I shouldn't get a copyright because I own the copyright from the what do you call it? The AI I used to have. So what I did was I write some lyrics, and then I ask AI to help me finish those lyrics and to make a song. They do it, and then I copy and paste my lyrics with the AI lyrics into an AI that makes a song. And I have a whole playlist that has the Siligio frequency in them, and each of these frequencies are supposed to help you with different things. So let me play this one. Well, let me play this one. What is it? It's I think it's is it Diamond Strong. This one is 285 hertz tissue regeneration. It's, oh, Heather says she can't hear anything. Can anyone else hear it? If it's playing, I'm not being healed. Oh, let me see what if I can refresh the page. Did you hit the share audio? There's a share audio. I don't think I have a share audio sign. Oh, nobody can hear it. That's weird because when I play, we played the Scottish Dr. Jameson who talked about the trace transfer DNA, and we could hear that. Do you hit the shared? Oh, I really wish you guys could hear this. Oh, maybe I can. I don't think I have them on here. Oh, can I go to settings? Post the link. Heather needs to heal her own time. It looks pretty. Thank you guys. So I'm so sorry I can't hear these, but yeah, so like I feel like DNA can glitter and shine. It's all made of diamonds and stardust and minerals, and it's fun. This song is really good too. What's it? That's weird because anytime you all right, so nobody can hear it. Can't hear it now? No. Happiness is just a chemical, is what Heather says. Oh, you know. Oh. What if I... Oh, you know what I might be able to do? I think I can get it to play. Okay. No. Oh. Welcome, Mean Girl and Large Creator Harem. I doubt that a frequency exists that could fix all that's wrong. Oh, Heather. That sucks I can't share it. Maybe I can play it on my phone.
Beneath the skin, a secret spark, a cosmic code, a beating heart, written in light and strands so fine, your DNA, a glittering design.
Hear it now?
More than stars in the endless sky, a universe within you can't deny. Diamond strong, unbreakable thread, a story of life where beauty is bred. Your DNA, it glitters and shines, made of stars, of sparkles divine. Diamond strong, it's more than they say, a miracle.
Oh, I got interrupted by a call.
And today, give it time, give it love, let it go. Your beautiful DNA always knows. Every cell is a healing song, a symphony where you belong. The body's a machine that can restore, rebuilding itself from its core. The medicine within your veins carries the wisdom of cosmic chains. Regeneration, a light in your soul, a gift of life that makes you whole. Your DNA, it glitters and shines, made of stars, of sparkles divine. Diamond strong, it's more than they say, a miracle ignited today. Give it time, give it love, let it grow. Your beautiful DNA always knows. Trust in the brilliance beneath your skin, a universe waiting to begin. More than stars in the end.
All right, so that one was 285 hertz, and that is for tissue regeneration. Let's see. So this one, I'm going to play one that's for pain relief and the love frequency. It's got two of them in there. I'll just play a little bit of it.
your heartbeat to its own song. A rhythm that's been yours all along. No need to seek, no need to prove. The power's in you, make your move. You don't need permission to shine. To be the masterpiece, one of a kind. Break the chains, let the world see. The diamond in you is wild and free. Be yourself, don't compromise. Accept yourself and love rise. Value yourself, don't work the fight. Forgive yourself, step into the light. Trust yourself, you're where you belong. Love yourself, your time is strong. The mirror shows every scar.
All right, so that's that one. That is 174 hertz and 528
Give
hertz.
yourself room, let the world
Oh, God, that's my favorite one. I'm going to say my favorite one. So, and then what I also want to find is the salt that I think is related to this. What is this? It's called salt and frequency. Yeah, here it is. Can you guys hear that one? Oh, thank you, Giselle. That's so sweet. Can you guys hear this music? So what I'm playing here is it's called resonance, where they put the salt on the vibrating and then they'll change the frequency, and different frequencies will make different shapes. I guess you guys can't hear the music. That's so weird because when I play other things, it works. So I don't want you guys to think that like I'm just being quiet. I'm showing a video. All right, so that was a fun detour. Just so you guys can see some things coming down the line. Oh, you know what? I was working on a video today. But I can show you instead. So Okay. So this is my Twitter here, and I made a collage of, so some of my collages is a short video. And then I have in here, especially when they took the mattresses out, they like hit the door frame, and then they just put them in these pickup trucks. And it's like they did all this, like, and of course we can never forget the famous U-Haul driver. And so like when I was reading the 911 script, it kind of took me all the way back to day one when the police officers were destroying and contaminating that crime scene. So, and then what else? The other things I did, okay, so this is a post that I created because in the order addressing IGG and order in camera review from October 25th, 2023, it explains that the FBI did not conduct a direct comparison between the SMP profile of the K-bar knife sheath and the defendant's SMP profile. And that was on page 7. And then within the state's motion for protective order on June 16th, 2023, in the footnote on page 4, it says the private lab only made a partial tree. And now I think we know that that private lab is Ortham. So Ortham lab only made a partial tree, not a complete tree. So that is in the state's motion for protective order. And then within the sworn affidavit of Riley Nolan, it states that the Idaho State Police Forensic Laboratory does not perform SNP analysis. That was on page 2. And then it says in the same document, the affidavit for Riley Nolan and from July 14th, 2023, STR data and SNP data cannot be directly compared. And so then one of my questions was anything compared to one another? Does the state really have a statistical match? And what we learned from that amazing Bika Barlow scathing DNA motion is that, and we also learned, was it from Bika Barlow, her declaration that it is the prosecutor's fallacy, that octillion statistic is the prosecutor's fallacy. I can also read you my initial theory of the entire case, and it surrounds the DNA, because that's how I initially got involved in this case. So, before we get to this, is my favorite article. This is where I keep getting that example of how to explain DNA mixtures. You know, you think about it as a bowl of alphabet soup. You put your spoon in the soup and you have a spoonful of letters. In that, you can pull out the John Q. suspect DNA profile. However, that's also going to be very similar to Patrick Queen's DNA profile, because you can essentially make any type of DNA profile with what is present on that spoon, because you have multiple people in that mixture. So, you might have an allele from one person, an allele from another, and it is possible to mistake those for a distinct individual DNA profile. If you guys want the link to that, I'll put that in the description below. But this is one of my favorite DNA articles. It's called DNA Mixtures, a Forensic Science Explainer. What are DNA mixtures and why are they sometimes so difficult to interpret? This article is a little older. It is from April 3rd, 2019, but it's still very, very relevant. The information has not changed very much from what's currently out there. And I guess I could read this one. It says, DNA profiling is an extremely powerful tool for solving crimes. If the evidence contains sufficient DNA from just one or two people, forensic experts can often produce a clear DNA profile of the person or people who left it. The profile, sometimes called a genetic fingerprint, can provide a solid lead in the case. Now, there are things called a genetic fingerprint, and that is not the same thing as like a fingerprint that you would, dust for fingerprints that are like the things on our fingertips. And I don't know why they ever named the genetic fingerprint after something that is already in forensic science. It makes it very confusing. But when they refer to this genetic fingerprint, it has to do with trace DNA. It's not the powder fingerprint. But DNA technology is always advancing, and in the last decade or so, forensic experts have been using new techniques to analyze DNA mixtures, which occur when the evidence contains DNA from several people. They are also analyzing trace amounts of DNA, including touch DNA. And this article puts touch DNA in quotes because they know that is not accurate, and I'm not sure why they even use that term, but they are quoting it there because we should not be using that term. It just doesn't explain what it is. Anyway, including touch DNA left behind when someone touches an object. These types of evidence can be far more difficult to interpret reliability than the relatively simple DNA evidence typical decades earlier. Let me read that again. That sentence didn't come out so well. These types of evidence can be far more difficult to interpret reliably than the relatively simple DNA evidence typical of decades earlier. With old school DNA, the results tend to be clear-cut. Either a suspect's DNA profile is found in the evidence or it isn't. And non-experts can readily understand what it means. With DNA mixtures and trace DNA, the results can be ambiguous and difficult to understand, sometimes even for the experts. This is my favorite DNA article. I reference this in almost anything I talk about or write. And I think it's just so well written and easy to understand. So I'll get back over here. So NIST has published DNA Mixture Interpretation and NIST Scientific Foundation Review. This study evaluates the science behind mixture interpretation methods and attempts to assess their reliability. Oh, you know what? I didn't read the title of this article. Did I? Oh, I did. DNA Mixtures, a Forensic Science Explainer. What are DNA mixtures and why are they sometimes so difficult to interpret? Why have DNA mixtures and trace DNA become so prevalent? DNA methods have become extremely sensitive. Forensic scientists once needed a relatively large amount of material, such as visible blood or semen stain to produce a DNA profile. Today, they can generate a profile from just a few skin cells that someone left behind when touching an object or surface. This capability is incredible technology achievement. It is also a positive development because it allows forensic science to help solve a greater variety of crimes. Now, before I move on, this article is a little old, and so sometimes it is, like in research, it's okay to use an older article, but then you have to explain if you can see what is old about it, but the information that is still current is fine. See, what we learned from that article that we were reading, the forensics and human factors, a systems approach, the one that Bika Barlow referenced in her scathing DNA motion. That is the latest and greatest from the scientific community. That took 4 years for that study to be done. And it is from the major scientific bodies that we have for forensic science. And in that, which we did talk about before, but more specifically, there is no technology where an expert could rely on to determine the mechanism of transfer, of DNA transfer, which would mean is it direct or indirect. There is no technology. There are no systems in place to be able to have an opinion on that. And in that motion, it does say that it quotes Riley Nolan from one of her, was it the grand jury testimony or some testimony of Riley Nolan? Riley Nolan gave an opinion that because of the 0.168 ng, because of that amount, that she believed it was direct transfer. However, that is completely false. And so when this article is saying today they can generate a profile from just a few skin cells that someone left behind when touching an object or surface, that's old information, because now we know transfer DNA can transfer to a location without the body. So your DNA could be at a crime scene that you've never been to. And currently, again, there is no technology to tell any scientist. There isn't even any training programs. We don't have experts in that field yet that can speak to the mechanism for the transfer DNA. So I did want to point that out because this article is from 2019, and the latest and greatest is that article that we went through and the article that Bika Barlow cites very beautiful in her scathing DNA motion. Oh, Original Badass, welcome. It's so good to see you. Oh, very good to see you. Original Badass says, isn't it true? It's transfer DNA, and we're constantly sharing it with each other and don't see it. It's how we develop herd immunity. Yes. Yes, that is true. All right, let's see here. Well, let's see. I can pull up. Let me see. Oh, I posted it on YouTube as well. Oh, everybody, this is my good friend Diane. I will put her link in the description. She's a new YouTube creator. She has this video here that is excellent. Very well done. great editing skills. Okay, yeah, here it is. So this is a screenshot. Can you guys see this? This is a screenshot of the scathing DNA motion. It says here, it's the motion in limine number 6 regarding Riley Nolan and reference to the touch and contact DNA terms. Now, it says here, many complicated factors can influence the likelihood of transfer of DNA and the persistence of transferred DNA after deposition. Here's the important part. Current DNA technology cannot conclusively answer the question of when DNA was deposited on an item or by what mechanism. For example, direct or indirect transfer. It is possible that the DNA detected on this item, which I guess is the sheath maybe, resulted from secondary transfer. However, based on Nolan's training and experience, it is her opinion, given the quantity of DNA detected on the sheath here, item 101, it says 0.168 ng. And given the DNA profile obtained as single source, it is more likely that the result is of a direct transfer. However, current technology cannot conclusively answer the question of when or the mechanism. So there's no way for Riley Nolan to know if it is direct transfer. And that is quoted. Let me see if I can bring it up. Yes. Okay. I gotta get. Oh, here we go. Okay, can you guys see this one? This is the latest and greatest article out there for the forensic DNA interpretation in the science community. It was published on May 20, 2024. It says forensic DNA interpretation and human factors, improving practice through a systems approach. And where is it? Here it is. And this is the scathing DNA motion written by Bika Barlow. It's the Riley Nolan in reference to touch and contact DNA. Down here, here it is. Then in 2024, NIST, the National Institute of Standards, published a document entitled Forensic DNA Interpretation, Human Factors, Improving Practice Through a Systems Approach. Forensic DNA Interpretation and Human Factors, Improving Practice Through a Systems Approach. So this is the very thing. This is 436 pages. It was put together and written by the Human Factors in Forensic DNA Interpretation, NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. It is part of the U.S. Department of Commerce, the National Institutes of Justice, and it took 4 years. The study began in 2020. It took 4 years. This is the latest and greatest that the forensic scientific community has. This is their, like, this is everything here. Maybe we can get more sense of who contributed to it, because don't they always have like a thank you section? Maybe the one time they don't have it. But I mean, these are really big departments that they have here. The Department of Commerce, the National Institute. And so when Bika Barlow is stating, she's quoting from that article, current DNA technology cannot conclusively answer the question of when DNA was deposited on an item or by what mechanism, whether the mechanism was direct or indirect. So she got that information from the most recent. So I just wanted to point that out, because when we come back over here to my favorite article, it is aged a little bit, but it doesn't have that distinction yet. So back over here, my favorite article, it says, why have DNA mixtures and trace DNA become so prevalent? And then at the last sentence of the first paragraph here, it says, today they can generate a profile from just a few skin cells. That is very true. However, the second part of the sentence, that someone left behind, they may not have left it behind, because as we know on this channel and all of my DNA stars out there, you guys have learned right along with me, you guys are just as knowledgeable with this, that someone does not have to necessarily leave it behind, because trace transfer, it practically moves on its own. And you don't have to touch an object or a surface. So I wanted to point that out real quick. So then it says that this capability is an incredible technological achievement. It is also a positive development because it shows forensic science. So because it allows forensic science to help solve a variety of crimes. Investigators might be able to solve an SA, for instance, even if very little DNA were recovered. They might investigate a break-in by swabbing a pry bar that was used to force the door open, or they may swab a firearm that was used to commit a crime. But such high sensitivity is a double-edged sword. We often shed small amounts of DNA when we walk. Actually, I think we all shed a lot of DNA when we walk and we talk and we sneeze and we touch things. As a result, many surfaces are likely to contain mixtures. Oh, this is so much fun. I can't wait to show you this down here. Am I on the right page? Not Heather Fitzgerald. Welcome. Okay. But such high sensitivity is a double-edged sword. We often shed small amounts of DNA when we walk, talk, sneeze, touch things. As a result, many surfaces are likely to contain mixtures of minute amounts of DNA from several people. These mixtures have always been present at crime scenes, but when sensitivity was lower, they wouldn't have been detected, or if they were, labs would not have attempted to interpret them. That is no longer the case. This is awesome right here. So it says here, forensic scientists are likely to detect more DNA mixtures when using high sensitivity methods when using low sensitivity methods. In this imagined crime scene, different colors represent DNA from different individuals. So look, well, you can pull this bar to the right or the left. So I'm going to pull it all the way to the right, and we're going to look at the low sensitivity. With low sensitivity, you can see DNA profiles where you might expect to see them. They're on the handle of the freezer, the refrigerator, the handles, the microwave door, where you might push yourself up from the table, when you stand up or sit down, right? On the arm rail here, You know, people might grab that with their hand. There's some over here on the coffee maker, of course, on the faucet, of course, on this handle. So you can see that's around. All right, and then I'm going to move this thing to the left, and then we're going to see what high sensitivity does. That brings in a lot more people, doesn't it? All right, I'm going to pull it back. Right, so like if a crime happened in here, not all of these people were present during that crime. Let's see. So there's definitely a lot more on the table here. You've got more DNA above the door handle and below it. Yeah, you can't even see that stuff above and below the door handle. There's a little bit more on this coffee mug. Oh, look, I see some down here on the chairs with the high sensitivity. It's not there with the low sensitivity. Well, there's a lot more over here on these cabinets and this countertop. This is so cool, isn't it? This is my favorite DNA article. I will make sure I put this in the link below. I wonder if I could put it in chat if anybody wants this now, and then I could put it below later. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. There's lots more down here on these cabinets. More up here where, see, everywhere we use our hands. And this didn't necessarily get there by hands either. Somebody could breathe here, breathed up here. Wow, there's a lot more on the refrigerator door here. Yeah. So that's really fun to play with. Let's see if I can make it bigger for you guys. That's a little better. You can see more. Here's low sensitivity. I'll slowly bring it back for the high sensitivity. You guys you could barely see it before. I should have made it bigger, sorry. Like the whole table like turns into multicolor. All right. All right, thank you for visiting Danger Zone. Hopefully talk to you soon. Be safe at work. Be safe later. Bye. Yes, Original Badass says the Lukis Anderson case opened up people's eyes, but not nearly enough. Yes, you bring up a great point because let me show you one of another excellent article. Marshall Project. So this is called Framed for Murder by His Own DNA. This is about Lukis Anderson. He was a young 25-year-old male who was homeless. He was drunk a lot. His DNA was found on the fingernails of a murder victim. He was arrested and questioned. And since Lukis Anderson, he was homeless, drunk a lot, he was like, I don't think I did that. I don't remember doing it. It's just, and then his attorneys figured out Lukis Anderson was treated by the same EMT earlier. I think it was earlier that day, maybe. Lukis Anderson was brought in to the hospital. I don't know if he was drunk or whatever. But then later that day, the same EMT assisted the victim. And so when the attorneys found out that information, that completely changed DNA and forensics forever. Here's some of the crime scene from there. I know I've showed this article before, but what I want to do is show you this. So this was an experiment where Rorschach, the godfather of DNA, he did a study where after 20 minutes of chatting and sipping swabs were deployed on their hands, the chairs, the table, and the jug and the juice. So he had volunteers come in and sit at a table and shared a jug of juice. Okay. The jug was touched by each of the participants at least once, and each of their DNA was found on the handle in almost every case. Although the volunteers never touched each other, 1/3 wound up with another's DNA on their palm. 1/3 of the glasses bore DNA of volunteers who did not touch or drink from them. And so these green bars represent objects bearing DNA of a participant who never touched an item. So nobody touched these chairs, this table, these glasses, or by the hands. But then this is where it gets interesting, and this is where it relates to what we were just talking about. Then there was foreign DNA, profiles that didn't match any of the juice drinkers. It turned up on about half of the chairs and glasses and all over the participants' hands and table. So the green are the volunteers that didn't touch any of these objects. And then this turquoise or this darker green are objects bearing foreign DNA that didn't match any of the participants. So this foreign DNA was not in the study. And as you can see, there's more foreign DNA than not. And so this trace transfer DNA is very misleading. It should never have been used for conviction, because as you can see, if this was a crime scene, how would you point to the culprit if more of the DNA that is trace transfer is not even related to the situation? Okay, and then it says the only explanation, the participants unwittingly brought with them alien genes, perhaps from the lover they kissed that morning, the stranger whom they shared a bus script, or the barista who handed them their afternoon latte. All right, so then let's go back over to my favorite article here. And we'll go back to this low sensitivity, high. Oh, Miss Pottage, welcome. Good to see you. We'll go back to this low sensitivity, high sensitivity. As you can see with high sensitivity, there's quite a bit of DNA there. And then when you go to low sensitivity, like you can really see it on the table. So if we're looking at this as a potential crime scene, how can you decide what would be the background DNA that is just present and has nothing to do with the situation? Even though all of this DNA is here, this DNA does not tell the story of what happened in this space. So even though we have the equipment and technology to see more DNA in a crime scene, that doesn't really help, because when you come back over here to Lukis Anderson, I just stopped sharing, didn't I? 97% of the trace transfer DNA on the table wasn't even part of the experiment. 74% wasn't a part of the experiment. So, and there's no way to tell when and how these foreign DNA profiles ended up on these in the study. Now, the study they probably cleaned and wiped off these objects before they started, but there were still background DNA. Okay. Okay, but where were we? Back to my favorite article here. It says, maybe I can make this a little bigger for you guys. Oh, yeah, how about that? Yeah, that looks pretty good, I think, better. Are all DNA mixtures difficult to interpret? Some mixtures are relatively easy to interpret. Others are more complex and require greater care. Still, others may be too complex to reliably interpret at all. It depends on the specifics of the case. Three main factors to determine the complexity of a mixture. How many people contributed to the DNA mixture? More contributors make a mixture more complex and therefore more difficult to interpret. How much DNA did each person contribute? Even if a mixture contains plenty of DNA overall, one or several people might have contributed only a tiny amount. The lower those amounts, the more complex the mixture. How degraded is the DNA? DNA degrades over time with exposure to the elements. This can also increase complexity. Yeah, especially if DNA is found on a brass snap, as we went over in one of the other lives. That DNA should not have been present by the time it entered by the time ISP said that they found a DNA profile on November 22nd, 2022, I believe it was. That DNA should not have survived that long. Because as we found in that article on brass, on the study, the DNA on the brass lasted between 4 and 12 hours. And the reliability to get a usable DNA profile rapidly decreased from, second one. And then by the time 24 hours came around, I think it was like 0.018 or something % chance of obtaining a reliable DNA sample, like lower than 1% after that. So you know, after the 24-hour mark, that it definitely would have been there. But you know, between 4 and 12 hours, you should get your DNA profile from breast before then, so that they're saying that it would more likely be reliable. So we learned that too a couple of lives ago. I could put that one in the description as well. When does a DNA mixture become too complex, too reliably interpret at all? Currently, there are no established standards for deciding this. Different labs have different protocols. When confronted with a particular complex DNA mixture, some labs will try to interpret it and others won't. Oh, yes, let me give you an example of that. Oh, yeah, I was going to put that in a video, which I still can do. But this particular piece of information I'm going to show you goes directly with that little paragraph that we just read. And this was research I did a long time ago on my Twitter. And it's very important to point out about how different labs have different standards on how far they will take it to reliably obtain a DNA sample from these mixtures or from trace transfer degraded DNA. Oh yeah, wait a minute. Oh, it was on my highlights page. Ah, here it is. All right. So I was researching stochastic effects, which is fascinating to me. And so, in what I'm about to show you, there are two approaches to revolving low quality, unreliable trace eDNA. eDNA stands for environmental DNA. The first approach is the stop testing approach. And I said, maybe this is what Ortham did because of the low quality DNA, but we don't know that for sure. And then the other approach is enhanced interrogation. So I'll show you here. This is some of my old work. I just highlighted a bunch of stuff here. It says, since stochastic effects cannot be avoided, the stochastic effects are allele drop in and drop out. There's stutter, where it's a fiber that is masks to look like an allele. And these things are also, they could be artifacts in a mixture, depending on a bunch of things. If there are low amounts, like teeny amounts of a couple of other people that are on the minor side of the mixture, and those tiny amounts can be confused with the majority or the bigger amounts of the other profiles. So these stochastic effects cannot be avoided when testing small quantities of DNA. There are essentially two schools of thought on how to handle these types of samples. One, the stop testing, or interpreting data before you go low enough to be in the stochastic realm. The stochastic realm is when the things get really small. They get a little bit hard to interpret. There's the stochastic line. They have a threshold where they will stop. I guess it would be manually comparing or manually trying to profile a sample. Because at some point, I feel like the DNA looks frayed, like a ripped fabric or a ripped piece of paper, where when you're getting that low on to look at the DNA strands, a ripped piece of paper or fabric doesn't necessarily look like what it was intended to. And it can have, it's unpredictable the way things could rip. So after the stochastic threshold or the analytical threshold, things get a little, they get a little chaotic to try to interpret. So the first way to handle some of these is to stop testing or interpret data before you go low enough to be in the stochastic realm. Or 2, try to limit the impact of the stochastic variation by additional testing and careful interpretation guidelines based on validation studies. Those who advocate for the second approach usually enhance their method sensitivity, such as increasing the number of PCR cycles. That's where they rapidly amplify tiny amounts to get as much out of the limited sample as possible. Then there's also this enhanced interrogation approach, which typically involves replicate testing and the development of consensus profiles. Is it this one? Okay, so now we're going to go further into what the stop testing approach is. The stop testing approach begs the question of how do you know that you are too low to obtain reliable results? For example, information that accurately reflects the DNA sample. There are 2 primary points in the DNA testing process where DNA reliably may be assessed. 1, at the quantitation stage prior to performing the PCR amplification of the short tandem repeat STR markers of interest. Or 2, during examination of the peak heights and peak height ratios for heterozygous loci in the STR profile obtained, an empirically determined threshold, usually termed a stochastic threshold, may be used to either the DNA quantitation or DNA interpretation stage to assess samples in the potential of the danger zone of unreliable results. For example, if the total amount measured of DNA is below 150 picograms, a laboratory may decide not to proceed with the PCR amplification due to stochastic effects. And it's a very real possibility. Alternatively, it's a very rare possibility. Alternatively, a laboratory may proceed with testing a low-level DNA sample, then evaluate the peak height signals and peak height ratios at heterozygous loci. Usually when peak height ratios for heterozygous loci in single-source samples dip below 60%, there is an indication that the stochastic effects are significant, which would make it challenging to reliably pair alleles into major and minor genotypes with mixtures. Since the advent of the PCR arrays, DNA quantitation tests have become more sensitive, enabling quantities as small as a few genomic copies to be detected. The use of PCR arrays such as the quantifier or the plexo-HY can enable detection of minute amount of DNA. However, it is important to keep in mind the enhanced interrogation approach. This approach improves sensitivity in detection technique is usually a valuable asset to enable results to be obtained from limited biological evidence. Not satisfied with failure to obtain a result with low amounts of DNA template, some laboratories have decided to push the envelope and apply what can be termed enhanced interrogation techniques. In fact, DNA testing has been applied successfully down to the single cell. About a decade ago, the United Kingdom's Forensic Science Service pioneered the application of low copy number, LCN, analysis through increasing number of PCR cycles to improve DNA detection sensitivity. Instead, the STR kit manufacturers recommend 28 cycles, which has theoretical yield of 67 million copies for each target DNA sequence, and additional 6 cycles of 34 in total. So what I mean is there's two approaches here. Whether you want to be safe and you don't want to go near those levels where it significantly increases for unreliable DNA result, or you want to use those techniques that can get you to the low amounts of DNA and you still run the risk of an unreliable DNA result, but I guess it depends on what your lab wants to do. Okay, now where did I go? Where's the... Oh, here it is. Oops, I always do that. I stopped sharing. Okay. So I read that because we were reading this paragraph. It says, when does a DNA mixture become too complex to reliably interpret at all? Currently, there are no established standards for deciding this. Different labs have different protocols when confronted with a particularly complex DNA mixture. Some labs will try to interpret it and some won't. And so that is like the stop testing approach or the enhanced interrogation approach, where you will go further into these very complex mixtures or these very small amounts of genetic material in the low copper trace DNA samples. And then it says here, to clarify some terms, not all mixtures are complex. For example, some, not all, two-person mixtures can be relatively easy to interpret. Those mixtures would not be considered complex, and this explainer does not apply to them. Also, when the evidence contains only a trace amount of DNA, it is sometimes impossible to know if the DNA came from only one individual or from multiple individuals. Like, for simplicity, this explainer uses terms complex DNA mixture to cover those cases as well. Just like this question about what was under Maddie's fingernails. They found a mixture. And I think they believed it was 2 other people besides Maddie, but they were trying to figure out, was it 2 unknown people or was one of them Kaylee and the other one was an unknown? And so then they ran the likelihood ratio. I'm not sure how they calculate that statistic, but the likelihood ratio is supposed to ask a question. It's not supposed to do identity. So what it's going to do is, however they measure it, they wanted to get closer to the answer of, is Kaylee in this mix or is Kaylee not in the mix? And they probably did that because it was a trace amounts mixture. and I don't remember how much genetic material it was. But yeah, that's a good example of what. So in that case, I don't know if it was a complex mixture or not, but I know that they were asking questions and they were trying to figure out if Kaylee was part of the mixture or not. Why are complex DNA mixtures difficult to interpret? To answer this question, it helps to know a bit about DNA profiles. When generating a DNA profile, forensic scientists don't analyze the entire genetic sequence. Instead, they look at roughly 40 short segments of DNA that vary from person to person. Those different variations are called alleles. And the key to knowing a person's DNA profile is knowing which alleles they have. To find out, forensic scientists need enough genetic material to analyze, so they make millions of copies of alleles. After amplifying the DNA in this way, scientists run alleles through an instrument that sorts them the way a coin counter sorts coins. Instead of ending up in a coin slot, the alleles end up as peaks in a chart. The positions of those peaks indicate which alleles are present. That is, they determine a person's DNA profile. When the evidence contains plenty of DNA, those peaks are often easy to read. For example, imagine a case in which an unaliver cuts himself with a knife he used as a weapon, leaving drops of red liquid at the scene. Analysts have created a DNA profile from those red drops. In addition, the police have arrested a suspect, collected the suspect's DNA, and generated a profile from it. Here's what the two profiles might look like. Oh, I gotta zoom out, guys. Oh, it's in. Okay, so the evidence profile has these two alleles. One of them is taller than the other. These two alleles, or this one is actually taller than that one. This is taller than that one, but they're closer. And then these look like to be about the same height. And so then they're comparing it to the reference profile. This is hard to see because these look, can you see what I'm looking at here? Danity Kane, welcome. Tom Campbell, welcome. Danger Zone, are you back? Danger Zone says, uh-oh. Audrey, can you get a sheath to do testing on basically create some conditions, etc., and then swab the button snap and see where you can get it to the same time? Let me know what you guys think about this. I was also thinking about getting a microscope because you can have like a camera hooked up to the microscope so that I could record what's under the microscope. And so I wanted to get these prepared slides so that we could all look about what different diseases look like or what type of different biological materials, because they have different like kits that have all these prepared slides. Some of them are like 50 slide kit, some of them are like 100 slide kit, and you have all of these things. And then I don't know, I could just find things like we can find fun things to put under a microscope, maybe like a makeup bristle or something. I don't know, you guys. I just thought that would be really cool to look at something under a microscope with you guys. So yeah, Danger Zone, that is a great suggestion because we could conduct our own investigation. We definitely can't have like like human biological material, but we could find like a makeup brush, or I'm just trying to see like little things around here. Oh, Heather said I shared something with you. It should be a notification. All right, let me check. You want me to pull it up, Heather? Oh, where did it go? Here it is. It says Alex. A supplemental narrative. Case number 21 POB Officer Woe's camera? What is this, Heather? I can't really read it on there. Maybe I can read it on my phone. Here we go. Supplement. On 10/11/21, I spoke with Alex Miller and her mother, Kelly Miller, by phone about the status of the case. They had concerns that the downstairs neighbor could look into her room while he smoked outside. She had not ever caught him watching her, but noted he could easily see in where he stands and smokes. They also asked questions about home security systems and cameras. I provided Alex contact information to ATVP at about 1,100 hours. I went to 305 Northeast Ash Street. I went to the lower unit occupied by the neighbor. I contacted a male there who identified himself to me with a Washington ID card as Jose Anibal Cruz. He had a strong Spanish accent and said he didn't speak English well. There was a language barrier, but I was able to communicate. He said he lived in the apartment by himself. His wife lived in town, but they were separated. I asked Cruz if he had heard or saw anything suspicious on Saturday night. He told me no. I asked where he was that night. He initially told me he worked until 2 at Rancho Viejo. He then said he worked until 22:30, and he said that he went to Timber that night until about 2 o'clock with his friend Miguel. He spent the night at Miguel's house after they left Timber. Is Timber that axe throwing? Is that near the corner club? He said that he didn't come home that night at all. I went upstairs and spoke with one of the roommates. She showed me Alex's room and the locations that Cruz smoked outside. She explained that Cruz used to smoke in front of his door, but they asked him to move so that the smoke didn't enter their apartment. He then moved around the side of the house on the grass near Alex's bedroom to smoke. She said he didn't speak much other than to say hello. Later, I checked Cruz's name. I noted that in May of 2017, Cruz was suspected of entering a neighbor's residence and watching her sleep. Ooh. Look at this case for more details. I certify and declare under penalty and perjury under the laws of the state of Washington that the foregoing is true and correct. That's Sergeant Aaron Brashears, number 406, Pullman Police Department, Monday, October 11th, 2021. Heather, what is that? Who's Alex? Oh, okay. So Heather says, does Alex know any of the residents in 1122 and the suspect smokes? Just weird, the same topics that exist in the Pullman break-in also have been applied to Brian in Idaho. Weird. Danger Zone says, Timber is where Brian's neighbor DJs and two other gents that spoke about Brian to media. Okay. Heather says, also, the girl kicked that person. That's right. First said that she thought it was a girl that she kicked. Yeah, I remember her saying she remembers how short the person was. Danger Zone says, and where Emma was coming from. Danger Zone says, a DUI. Heather says, bingo, Danger. Typically unique, welcome. Oh, welcome, Carlos. You're just having a little argument about the DNA? That's cute. Okay. That's good. That's good fun. Heather Fitzgerald says, Kim is always right. Carlos knows nothing. Wait a minute. What did I I didn't say that. I don't know what I walked into. Danger says, one is also friends with Nick behind the girl's house. Don't get me started. All right. Rochelle, welcome. So good to see you. Tandy Kane says, I hope the jury is willing to learn about trace DNA limited reliability. This is going to be a tough case to win in Idaho. Yes, you're so right. And I was saying this the other night that I did think that this case would change laws, whether it was like cell phone data or something about the grand jury or, because we know this case is already changing a lot of things, but I didn't see the DNA coming. But this case, I do believe, will be a landmark case for trace transfer DNA and the how and the why questions, the activity level that goes along with that there is no technology or training or anything to be able for any expert to rely on to determine the mechanism of the DNA transfer, whether it was direct or indirect. So Bika Barlow got that on court record. It's on court record. So if there are any defense attorneys out there, download, and I'm serious, download Bika Barlow's motion in limine. What was it, number 4? I have, because that is going to change the entire landscape of the U.S. legal system. I think that is actually going to start the domino effect to get us where Europe and Australia is with this trace transfer DNA, because they've already started to limit it. They've already started to understand that the activity level is extremely important with the trace transfer DNA, and I think we are slowly getting there. Bika Barlow definitely gave us a big boost, and all of you that are here now, everybody on replay, all of you are doing your part to understand and be a responsible person. So if we're ever jury members, we understand that this trace DNA is very unreliable, that it's definitely not touch DNA, and that you can't. There's no scientific way to know when and how the DNA was transferred. Was it direct or indirect? So, Danny Kane, that is an excellent, excellent comment. Because, you know, the court certainly is not going to help the jury understand that trace transfer DNA is different than the blood, sweat, semen, saliva. And I honestly would feel terrible if I didn't have this information and I was on a jury, and for some reason, because there was DNA, that everybody on the jury decided to convict a person. And then I learned later that the information that I or we as a jury relied on was not correct. That would just feel terrible. So not only do I find that this DNA stuff is so much fun, I really enjoy learning about specifically the trace transfer DNA. Not only is it fun to learn about, it's really important stuff to know, I think. So Heather Fitzgerald says, wondering if Brian's neighbor who said Brian submitted his DNA actually said it to cover for the upload the day prior for that was the profile marked SC, searching and taking the pic from Prometheus. Yeah. Mark and Betty, oh, welcome. Yes, and thank you for subscribing yesterday. I was on Eville CJ's live. I will be live with CJ later tonight. I've already put his link in the description box below. So if anybody wants to follow me over there, they can. Let me just double check what time I'm going over there. What did he say? Okay. So it'll be an hour and a half, I believe, until I go over to CJ's. But thank you, Mark and Betty, for that. And what was it? Kid Kitty said that she was unsubscribed. I don't know. People have been being unsubscribed by YouTube. I don't like when that happens because, you know, at first I didn't understand it, but I can see my subscriber count go up and then it goes down. So I was like, are people unsubscribing? But no, I think, Kid Kitty, you're here. Welcome. Thank you for subscribing again and catching that. Oh, I can't wait to see you too later on CJ's. Thank you. Oh, Kid Kitty's in here too. Did I miss you? You just got in here. Okay. Yeah, so YouTube is doing weird stuff. Oh, Backwood Beats is here. Welcome. Oh. Okay. So Heather. Oh, well, welcome, Kitty. Heather. Who's Alex? Oh, it's all Hishram related, Heather says. And that's the place they are at in 2021. Okay. All right. So Heather sent me this that looks like a police report. Is this police report? What angle is the police report related to? Danity Kane says, Mark and Betty, I'm in the UK. Oh, welcome from the UK. That is awesome. Danity Kane says, I worry they won't trust the defense experts because they want to convict. And you know what? I've heard that happens a lot with juries, that they only want to trust the state. And they don't really pay attention to what the defense experts have to say. And I guess they think they'd rather be safe than sorry, but no, that's bad. You got to reverse that. Being better safe than sorry is actually making coming to a conclusion that the person is innocent, so you don't send somebody to jail who's innocent. Yeah, juries nowadays, I don't understand them. Danger Sign says, why are juries the worst among us? Oh yes, by design. Yes. Okay, so I'm not sure what this is for. So we were back here and we were looking at the evidence profile and the reference profile. These triangles represent alleles. And up here it says, why are complex DNA mixtures so difficult to interpret? To answer this question, it helps to know a bit about DNA profiles. When generating a DNA profile, forensic scientists don't analyze the entire genetic sequence. Instead, they look at roughly 40 short segments of DNA that vary from person to person. Those different variations are called alleles, which are these triangles. These are the alleles. And the key to knowing a person's DNA, those different variations are called alleles. And the key to knowing a person's DNA profile is knowing which alleles they have. To find out, forensic scientists need enough genetic material to analyze, so they make millions of copies of the alleles. After amplifying the DNA in this way, scientists run the alleles through an instrument that sorts them like a coin counter sorts coins. Instead of ending up in coin slots, the alleles end up as peaks on a chart. So I guess these are the peaks. Okay. The positions of those peaks indicate which alleles are present. That is, they determine the person's DNA profile. When the, am I not sharing? I was not sharing the entire time. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay, so here I was. So these are the alleles, these peaks, these triangles here. And the article says they will take these out of the genetic sequence and they'll just push them into what a coin counter is. And instead of coins, they're these triangle peaks. And this is after they amplify it and they copy them a lot. And it says they don't analyze the entire sequence. They're just looking for 40 of these segments. And these variations here, these are the alleles. What's the allele here? When evidence contains plenty of DNA, those peaks are often easy to read. For example, imagine a case when a killer cuts himself on a knife he used as a weapon, leaving drops of blood at the scene. Analysts have created a DNA profile from those drops. Here's the evidence profile of the drops. In addition, the police have arrested a suspect, and they generated a profile from it. And here's what it looks like. Okay, so the reference profile is similar. I can see these two here are almost straight across, whereas the evidence profile, this peak is a little taller than that peak. These are also kind of straight across, whereas the evidence profile, this one on the left is taller than this one on the right. Same with here, back down at the reference profile, which I guess this is the suspect profile. These alleles are the same height, but on the evidence profile, this allele on the left is a little taller, this allele on the right is a little lower, but these last pair of alleles look very similar. For the evidence profile, these two look kind of straight across, and so do these. Okay, so I would say, does that mean they have one allele or one combination of allele in common? I wouldn't. Well, I don't know how to read, but read these DNA profiles. You know, I'm learning as we are, but I can clearly see there are some similarities and some differences. What those similarities and differences mean, I don't know. All right, so here's a little thing written, to describe this graph that we were just looking at. We were looking at the evidence DNA sample, which is above, and then the suspect's DNA sample is on the bottom. It says a DNA profile from the crime scene that contains DNA from only one individual, which is the top, and the DNA profile taken from the suspect, which is the bottom, and it's often called the reference profile. These images are simplified illustrations. Real ones would have more peaks and other details. Okay. Wait a minute, who silenced you? Second time now this live at YouTube has silenced me. Don't talk about rectangles in the sky. How are you silenced? I talk to you the most, right? Am I not understanding something, Heather? Rochelle says, hey, we'll be fearful of LE after seeing how far they will go to cover something up. Yeah, that's very scary. Or about this Pullman connection, Heather says. Drops on the handrail. All right, Heather Fitzgerald says, simple fact, they chose to ignore the thing they can see and instead go with the thing they couldn't see. Exactly. That's exactly what they did. Heather Fitzgerald says, Twiz, I had to switch accounts. Heather Fitzgerald, you have more than one account? Oh, it was supposed to say Jerry, Rochelle says. Okay. Where's your comment? Oh, the jury will be fearful after LE seeing how far they will go to cover something up. Is that what you meant, Rochelle? Twiz says, does Twiz say Heather's a rectangular burglar? Okay, Heather Fitzgerald says, yes, it's the second time I've had to use my alt account. Why? I don't know. I don't know, Heather. Yeah. So, I really wish that I could, scroll on the website and, read and show you guys all of the DNA stuff and be able to look at chat at the same time. Because the matrix is matrixing. Why are you just the funniest? Okay. Yeah, nobody silences Heather even if they wanted to. Right? Twiz, I'm really liking the orange. The orange is that's the color that fits you very well. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, right, Vanity Kane? Yeah, I think I'm not quite understanding what the police report was for. Mark and Betty says it was strange. It was a strange text saying Xana was all in black. I agree. It was very strange, though. That exchange between those two, I think it shows they knew something happened. Danny Kane says, I haven't heard of this cigarette connection. Well, yeah, clearly those comments didn't go through. Rochelle, do it, please. All depends on when she was wearing black. I think she meant the party earlier, says Twiz. The only reference I remember of the cigarette was one of the defense motions said that the police surreptitiously got a DNA profile off of a cigarette butt. Danger Zone says, I think Bethany was saying when she saw her earlier at Sigma Chi, she was wearing all black, and then Dylan corrects her that she didn't think it was her. Oh. Rochelle says, they said they have a cigarette evidence that they were comparing DNA to. The report is from Pullman case. Okay. Did they... I'm still confused. Did they... I think a lot was left out. Danny Kane says, I think a lot was left out. They seem like conversationally anyway. With the girl who woke up in the middle of the night. Oh, okay, Rochelle. Okay, so Heather and Rochelle, you are connecting the police report that I just read, which is another incident of possibly the same person, the October 2021 Pullman incident. Oh, is it that same incident? Is that when the police took someone in for questioning? Okay, so it's related to that one. Yeah, and that case is ridiculous because, oh yeah, and they tried to tie Brian to it, right. Yeah, and that's even crazier when they had that happen in 2021 that is very similar to what happened at the King Roadhouse, and they still didn't go in that direction. Okay, I got it now, Heather. Wow. Where did you get a hold of a police record like that? Did you FOIA it? That's amazing. Even though the man was described, Danger Zone says, even though the man was described as like 5'3", 5'5", right? The man. It's just terrible. There were so many other like more solid leads that law enforcement could have taken with this case, and it just seems like worse than paper thin to try to tie Brian to this case when there's so many other avenues. It's the neighbor downstairs. He has a past case close to what happened to that girl, says Rochelle. Yeah, and Meg P, welcome back. Meg P says, yeah, because BK is a 5'3" woman, right? So many, says Danger Zone. Danny Kane says, Meg P, yeah, like that could be mistaken for her brows. Probably some, right? Oh, well, Heather, thank you for sharing that. So they've had This establishes a pattern of somebody who was behaving very similarly in 2021. And then Heather also says 2017, the bottom neighbor who smokes. Oh, they stabbed someone. So they had they had an incident in 2017 and 2021. Wow. Google Jose. Okay. Google Jose Annabelle Cruz Pullman. Jose Annabelle Cruz Pullman. "21 Pullman police body." The other man listed is Jose, who was deemed a person of interest. Oh, Heather, is this? Mark, should I ask my magic 8-ball? All right, so Heather. The involvements. We put Brian Koberger's name on here, but here's Jose Annabelle Cruz, and they also have a Miguel. That's the friend. The Miguel is mentioned in the police report. Rochelle says, I think they had a date and the time wrong on that guy's work alibi from the night of the Pullman girls incident. I'd have to find it again. That was found at the very beginning of the Moscow case. And in 2017, that Jose stabbed someone 8 times. Okay. So Jose has a history of stabbing. Do you think he was ever one of the alternative suspects in the IDAHO4 case? Evan means Ethan. This Evan means Ethan. Rochelle says they have wiped so much off the internet. Yes, they have. Okay. So this is the guy Heather wanted us to look at. The other man listed is Jose Annabelle Cruz, who was deemed person of interest by Pullman police on 10/11/21. But by 1/12/23, Brian Koberger's name was added to the short list of a second person of interest due to similar circumstances of a man entering a home around 3:28 a.m., a home with 4 occupants who were startled by him wielding a knife and wearing a mask. Pullman police did their darndest to find out from WSU whether or not Brian could have been in town. Who am I reading? Obviously a guilter. Ooh, oh, you have to buy this? Okay, so it looks like this person on their Patreon, no one answers Jose's door. It looks like this person has body cam of when they went to go to see Jose. Am I still sharing? No. Why do I keep doing that? Here, you guys see this? This Patreon, you can buy it. The police are gonna go into Jose Cruz's house. And then here's the girl that was the survivor. She was on that body cam. I have some of that body cam footage in my shorts section of the incident from 2021 when the woman kicked the intruder like really hard in the stomach because like he was like in her closet watching her sleep. Yes, Ginger Stone says yes. Body cam, follow up body cam. It is clear he's involved. Okay. Type. Woman stabbed 8 times in Aberdeen. Don't buy. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, but I think that's cool. Somebody they put this story together for Cruz. Okay. That is very strange that Pullman Moscow has had similar incidents to this IDAHO4 case. And they're making it seem like this is a shock and it's never happened before, but it has, at least twice, right? Twice before? Okay. All right. Oh, you know what? Oh, does that mean Eville CJ is gonna be live? I thought he was gonna go live later. All right, let me double check. I might have to hop off to go over to CJ's. CJ's link to his channel is in the description. We will be talking more about the IDAHO4 case. I think his title is we're talking about the sheath that is tucked up under Maddie. Let me just see. Yeah, okay. It says about 15 minutes. We will be going live. I thought I had a little bit more time here. But everybody has been so great. We will definitely finish my favorite article at some point. Let me know in the comments if you want me to read that article all the way through, or if you like how I make a sidebar to try to connect the information that it's saying to the other articles that I've read. And let me know about if you guys are interested in glam DNA kits. I have some awesome coffee mug designs to show you all. I think it would be cute that we all get our little DNA kits, but it's like glam swag stuff. Because you're all DNA stars. All of our DNA is glitter, minerals, diamond dust. Oh, right. I'll have to put it in the description. Thanks for reminding me, Danger Zone. I'm going to copy that right now. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming and being here. Thank you, replay crew. We will continue to read my favorite article later. And please come visit us on CJ's channel in just about 15 minutes. His link is in the description. We'll be talking about IDAHO4. Thank you, everybody. Bye.